So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Meredith, and I will be your instructor. I want to welcome you to this training session of Making All the Rules. This course or this workshop is focused on how to create and modify rules and insights in the Cloud SIEM environment. And the only thing I ask of you is if you got a question, please ask it. Okay. So if it's relatively reasonably pertinent to the content, ask your question. We want to make this as interactive and helpful for you as we possibly can. All right. That being said, I want to introduce two of my colleagues. The first one is Anna Nelson, and Anna wrote this course. So Anna, you want to say hi?
Hello. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, come on.
I'll be in chat answering everyone's questions.
Okay. Very good. And Claire, you want to say hi as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm here to support John and Anna. I don't know how much I can be, but here to assist if needed. Happy to run. Wish I could get you coffee or water, but in the chat as well. Nice to meet you all.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So again, I've been with Sumo a little less than 2 years. I'm based on the East Coast out of Bedford, New Hampshire, which is where I live. And I believe Anna is one of our instructional designers, and she is based out of the Sacramento area. And so out of the West Coast. And Claire is up in Portland, Oregon. So as I like to call it, the other Portland. Simply we've got a Portland, Maine, but that's okay. Anyway, let's get started. So hopefully you all know about our Cloud SIEM, right? Our security information and event management system. This is in addition to what we normally think of as the Sumo Core or the Sumo Core Information Platform, where it's an add-on that lets us focus on security issues, event management, and that sort of thing. It is an enterprise-grade platform that makes threat detection and stuff very, very easy based on a lot of neat standards. So one of the things that happens is that we go through this process where we convert the data coming in through our normal collection process, and we send it into this Cloud SIEM environment. And so what happens here is that we have the standard Sumo logic collectors that you have, and basically you have the various little sources, and you go through and you mark a source as I want to forward this to the Cloud SIEM environment. And that's then going to ingest these and turn these into messages. Now, once we receive the messages, the Cloud SIEM environment is going to parse those messages out, grab certain fields. We will, when we create and set up of the Cloud SIEM environment, we'll tell it what kind of information we're getting, how to parse that information, how to map that information. So that is something that typically gets done. And so we'll define how to parse out those fields. For example, it might grab a field that has, say, an IP address in it, but the IP address has dashes. And so what it'll do is it'll parse that information out. It will flip it so it actually becomes an IP address, and then it will map it to a specific field, right? Source IP or whatever, one of the metadata tags that we use. Once it's mapped that information, we'll also do some enrichment. Maybe we'll send it out to CrowdStrike and ask, hey, gee, are there any known threats for this? So we'll typically take this log data and we will enhance it and enrich it. That then allows us to create these things, these records. Now, what it does is it takes these records and it goes against rules. Now we've got over 800 rules that are based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And so these rules, it's going to compare this signal information against this rule. And if this rule matches the signal, it's going to, the rule matches the record, it's going to initiate a signal. It's going to extract out the entity. And the entity is like the host name or the IP or the source name or whatever. And it's going to pull that information out and it's going to parse out that signal. So that turns it into a signal. And on that rule, we will assign it a severity score. So it's going to identify that we've got a signal, which is based on a record you've got coming in that matches what we consider to be a threat or something of interest. And we'll score it and we'll pull out the entity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take those signals and combine them by entity and correlate them by entity. And if the sum of those signals adds up to greater than 12, the value 12 over a 2-week period of time, we're going to fire off an insight that relates to that. So this is the process that happens inside of the Cloud SIEM environment. Okay, like I said, typically when we're processing these rules, right? These rules are going to have severity scores. Now, we have, like I said, over 800 rules that we maintain, that we take care of for you. If they need to be updated, no problems, no fuss, no muss. But if you have a special situation in your company and your environment that we haven't necessarily created a rule for, then you can create a rule. And that's the focus of this workshop. We're going to talk about 3 things in this workshop. Rule tuning, which is where we can create exceptions. Rules, where again, we can create these hazardous or potentially conditions that we want to generate a signal for. And then we'll also talk about creating insights. So those are the 3 things we'll talk about today. So as I said, when we have a rule that matches the record, that generates a signal, and we will also extract out the entity. And again, we're going to look at that entity and combine other signals within the within the 2-week window. And as I said, if the score of those severity scores adds up and is greater than or equal to 12, it generates an insight for us. Okay. Now let's put this into practical use, if you don't mind. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to fire up Google Chrome or Firefox. So bring up Google Chrome and Firefox, and I'd like you to go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. And I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999. Pick whatever number you want. I'm going to pick 603, but I would like you to type it in the chat box. So whatever number that you choose to pick, which is fine, please let us know what number you pick. We're just trying to make sure things are fairly unique. And as I said, I'm going to grab 603. And those of you who've been with me in other classes know that that's the area code for New Hampshire. All right. So that's why I'm picking it. There's no magic. I am amazed to see over the last 2 days that not too many people have picked 007. I guess we don't have a lot of James Bond fans here, but that's okay. So if you would type the number that you want in the chat box, that way we can keep track of things. And so you're going to type in for the username training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And then it's going to ask you for a password. And our current password is capital S, lowercase EPT, numeral 2, numeral 0, numeral 2, numeral 1, exclamation mark. And yes, you've probably figured out by now, I've spent a little time in the military, right? So the numeral 2 probably gave you it away, but I promise I won't go totally phonetic on you. So September 2021. Now this password is going to change the first Monday in October, and we change it every month. I don't know what the new password is, but I will put my contact information in the chat box. So if you want to know when we get into October how to access this training environment, I will let you know what the password is. You can still use the same username. You just need the new password. So there's my contact information. Okay. And let me just go ahead and stop here for a second. And let me take this information from the slide. And let me go ahead and copy it into the chat box. So just bear with me a moment. And then I'll go ahead and log in and we'll have ourselves a good time. So sometimes it's easier to copy and paste. Again, you need to grab a 3-digit number. So what do I want you to do? I want you to go ahead and open up a new browser tab in Google Chrome or Firefox. I would like you to go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. And it will ask you for an email address, and it will ask you for a password. Again, I am going to use, assuming I can get my keyboard here right, training plus analyst. And I'm going to grab numeral 603 at sumologic.com. And the password is, let me actually get rid of this. It's probably an old password there. And let me let you show so you can see my password. Capital SEPT 2021 exclamation mark. And if you go ahead and click sign in, it should go ahead and let you in. Now, when I left this last, I just taught a class, so I've got a bunch of tabs open. And if whoever logged in with that same number previously in other classes and stuff left some tabs open for you, it's not a big deal. You could, of course, close them up individually, which is kind of painstaking. Or if you click on any one of those tabs, you've got this 3 vertical dots. We refer to this as the more action button. Some people call it kebab. and you click on the kebab and you can close all tabs. So just like that, they're all gone. And then from here, ladies and gentlemen, on the main menu, and by the way, if this is not open, this is the navigation panel. If it's not open, you simply click up here where it says Sumo Logic, and you've got this hamburger menu, or you can think of it as a stack of pancakes. Don't ask me why things relate to food for me. It's probably not a good conversation to have. But you can click it open, and down here is our main menu. And in that main menu, if you click on Cloud SIEM Enterprise, it'll open it up and take you into our Cloud SIEM environment, which is where we're going to play. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to make sure that you guys are all in here. And as such, I'd like you to let me know that you're in here by raising your hand. So raise your hand when you're all logged in and life is good. Okay. We don't want to leave anybody behind. I know for many of you, you've been probably very busy with workshops and training and lots of good breakout sessions today, lots of good information. So if some of you choose not to play, I understand. Okay. Where do you get the number, JD? You actually create the number. You decide what number you want to use. So I appreciate you asking the question. For those of you who came in here late, like I said, we want you to go to service.sumologic.com. Then I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999. I'm going to grab 603 because I like the area code of New Hampshire. And then you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that number at sumologic.com. And then the password is capital S, small e, PT, 2021 exclamation mark. Okay. So you pick your own number, JD. So hopefully that answers your question, sir. And I'm assuming this, sir. If I'm wrong, I apologize. All right. So again, my goal here is to get you all logged in. And again, once you're all logged in, we'll go ahead and proceed. Now, I'm assuming I'm not going to get 100% because I know some of you, like I said, are probably tired. You just want to listen. That's fine. I get it. So I just want to give it a minute here and make sure we're good to go. And if you all want to, you can go ahead and lower your hands. Now, the other thing is in the chat box, I put in a PDF document. And that PDF document is right here. I've got it open. You will notice in here, like I said, the information is contained here about logging in. And this is the exercises that we're going to do. So, Christopher, I assume you just logged in. You're good to go. Thank you. So, again, we got ourselves logged in. Again, when you log in, when you log into Sumo Logic, and by the way, I'm going to show you something you may or may not be aware of. If I want to switch back to the Sumo Logic interface, in my icons up here, I can click on this grid icon, and that lets me go back to my continuous intelligence platform. And so here is where you click. Once you're in Sumo Logic, you click here, and that will take you into our Cloud SIEM environment. So hopefully we're all here, we're all ready to play, we're all ready to have a good time. Any questions, concerns, feel free to let myself or Anna or Claire know in the chat box, and we will get you all taken care of. And again, in the chat box, I have put a PDF document. Feel free to download that. Now, one little thing, if you can't download it because your company has said, we can't let you download things through Zoom, if you go back to our portal, back to our Illuminate portal, here in our Illuminate portal, there's a resources area. And in that resources area, you can filter by different things. I want you to filter by training. And then here in training is all the PowerPoints and all the guides that we used for this class. And here is the Making the Rules student workbook. And you can download it from here if you can't take it from Zoom. All right. So our goal is to make things easy. By the way, I know I've been teaching a lot of certification classes over the last 2 days. This is not a certification class, therefore there's no test for this. This is only an hour workshop. So we'll keep it kind of fun and kind of light and all that good stuff. Any questions so far? All right. Let me go back into my heads up display. Again, I am going to here, before we get into writing the rule tuning expression, just a quick little overview of what we're looking at here. Here I can see my systems online. This is my time range. So when I look at my heads up display, this ring is the time range from start to finish. And then I'm looking at information over here based on my time range. So I can see how many records we've ingested in the last 24 hours, how many signals we've converted, and how many insights. And then I can see the status of those insights, how many are new, how many are in progress, things like that. And I can see a timeline of when those insights were generated. Over here in my heads up display, again, it typically updates regularly. So if you saw it flash there, it's not a figment of your imagination. This is where it shows me my records. This is where it tells me it generated signals. And then my red triangles are my insights. And then over here, this is my latest insight. And then down here in the lower right-hand corner is my system log. So I can see who's been playing with insights, who's been changing insights, maybe moving them from, from new to in progress or whatever. I can see what activity's been going on. All right. Now, in this class, we are going to focus on 3 things, pure and simple. 3 things. We are going to talk about rule tuning expressions. We're going to talk about rules, and we're going to talk about insights. So what's a rule tuning expression? This allows us to take an existing rule that we've provided for you, and you don't have to rewrite it, okay? Rule tuning expressions, I can apply them to a single rule, or I can apply multiple expressions to a single rule, or I can apply a tuning rule to multiple expressions. So it's one-to-many on both sides, basically. I can take one of my rule tuning expressions and apply it to many different rules, or again, I can take my various rules as I build them and apply them to various rule tuning expressions. Rule tuning expressions are really when I want to make an exception, okay? And we'll see that in our little exercise here in just a second. And the nice thing about these rule tuning expressions is it doesn't modify the rule. And so if we provided that rule, we're going to keep it up to date. We're going to keep it fresh. As things change, we'll automatically provide you that updated information. Now, so the rule tuning expression is just more or less an exception to when you want to fire that rule off. So let's say that I've got a rule that deals with firewalls, right? And if somebody's messing with my firewalls, I want to be notified. Well, what about the person who's doing maintenance on your firewalls, right? That person should be authorized, and I don't want to get an alert for that. So there's a case where I might probably want to write a rule tuning expression. And basically I want to say, look, I want the rule to fire unless it's this person, or if it's not equal to this person, I want the rule to fire is basically what you're doing, okay? Now, another thing that we're going to talk about besides rule tuning is custom insights. And custom insights, remember, an insight fires when a score is greater than 12 over a 2-week period. Well, you may want to create a rule and you want it to fire off automatically. So you can create a custom insight, and custom insights are based on a single rule or a bunch of rules. Could be one, could be many, all right? And basically you want this insight to fire based on these rules, not necessarily predicated by a score. You want them, when these rules fire, boom, I want to know, right? So this provides faster alerting for specific known threats. And of course, it means that we're not changing the rules. Again, the less we have to change the rules, the better. However, there is a possibility that you might have to change your rules and you might have to write a rule. So rule tuning expressions typically are used when we have exceptions to existing rules. Custom insights are when we want to be alerted off a specific rule or a chain of rules without worrying about a severity score or something like that. But custom rules are where we want to write and maintain our rules. You have specific threats in your company or specific issues that you have that maybe you want to write a rule for. And we'll talk a little about writing those custom rules. So this is what this workshop is going to focus on, okay? So what I want to do is I want to stop the slides here for a second, and let's go ahead and look at our lab guide. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to do step 2, where we write a rule tuning expression. And let's see how that works. So we're going to go back into our heads up display. And here in our heads up display, under content, is where you will see rules, rule tuning, and custom insight. Now, Depending on your privileges here, you may see more things, but all of us are going to see rules, rule tuning, and custom insight. Forgive me, we do lock this thing down because we don't want people poking and playing and stuff like that. So that's where we're all using these training analyst accounts. Now, we want to go in here to content. We want to grab rule tuning, and we want to create a rule tuning expression. Okay. Here is a rule tuning expression that somebody created. Terrific. Now, we want to create our own rule tuning expression. So we can click the create button here in the upper right-hand corner. So here in the upper right-hand corner, first thing it asks us to do is what rules, first thing we want to do is give it a name. So let me go up here and put in a name that I want to call this. And I recommend all of you put in your initials. So I'm going to put in my initials, and I am going to call this rule tuning, and I would ask you to do it too. And there's a simple reason why I'm asking you to do this. When we finish up this workshop later on, we're going to clean these things out. And so if I can easily identify things have the words rule tuning in them, I know I can delete them. So that's why I ask you. Now, truth be told, I might name this based on what I'm trying to create. I want to create a rule tuning exception for firewall access or whatever. I give it a more meaningful name, but I want to know what this is so that I can go back and clean out my rules and your rules as well. Okay. So give it a good meaningful name. Now, down here, the question is, what rules do I want to apply this to? And I can either use selected rules or I can use all of my rules. Well, that's a bit far-fetched. I'm going to just go with some selected rules. And then I can start typing in the type of rules that I'm looking for. Now, our rules, like I said, are based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Okay. So if I start typing in here firewall, okay, it now shows me all kinds of rules that are associated with firewall type things. And I'm going to assume that we have a checkpoint firewall application environment. Okay. And I'm also going to assume that this rule is actually active. It's not disabled. Okay. You can enable and disable certain rules if you need to, but I'm going to go ahead and select that rule. So if this rule fires off, I want to create an exception. Okay. It probably won't fire off because it's disabled, but just bear with me. Assume it's active and we're working in a checkpoint firewall environment. So what happens here is I want this rule to fire in all cases except when it's me. I'm the firewall administrator. I don't want it to fire when it's me. So back to my directions here for a second. And again, one thing that Anna did a nice job of here, she put in some best practices with regards to building this stuff up. So in the guide and stuff, we've got various best practices. Now, what I want to do here is on page 2, on step D up here, I want to basically add that in, and I want to basically create an expression. So I want to say something like email, and it says, okay, finds all little objects with email. And I'm going to grab the one that says user email. Whoops, excuse me. Might help if I scroll this down just a little bit. There we go. I want to grab user email. And normally you think, okay, user email is equal to, and then I'm going to put whatever in a single quote, a little string. J Meredith at sumologic.com. Okay. And I put somebody's email address in here. There's a problem with this. The logic is actually, my logic is actually a little incorrect. Because what happens is I want to write the rule that says this rule is going to fire except. And so what I'm going to do is in front of my equal sign, I'm going to put an exclamation mark. So this now reads, the user's email is not equal to jmeredith at sumologic.com. So I'm putting in the logic that I want here because the rule is going to fire, but I don't want it to fire when it's this person. And that's how you create a rule tuning expression. Okay. Yep. Brett says, what about including the using exclude. Yes, you could logically do it that way too. The only thing is be careful here. Yeah, you're right. You can flip that and then change it to an equal sign. So yep, you're right. Either one. Super. And again, if you're curious about this, you can click on the little help button over here, and it will take us to the schema buttons so we can see the different fields and other things that we can, use. Because obviously people typically like documentation. And again, this is in the Sumo Logic documentation under Cloud SIEM. So we make it very easy for you to do that. And then when you're done with this, you click submit, and voila, it is now going to be available here to be used. Okay. So that's a rule tuning expression. Any questions about that? All right. So here in step 3 on page 2, they want us to create a custom rule. So let's talk about creating a custom rule. First of all, I want to mention to you, and again, just as an FYI, see this little question mark up here with the red dot? Well, the red dot means that Sumo Logic has updated and has some announcements for me. When Sumo Logic updates my rules, I will receive an announcement that tells me what rules they have updated and what things that they have changed. And I can review this at any time. That's what that red dot means. And you'd learn that in our admin class. But I just want you to be aware of that. Also, here's our documentation and that sort of thing. So a lot of people always want to know about what rules we might have. By the way, I thought I hit submit on this. Let me go here to content. Let me go here to rules, just to get out of that screen. And then here are our basic rules. So these are the various rules, and these rules are maintained by Sumo Logic based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And so if you find that there's something unique about your environment that maybe you need to have some additional rules, and by the way, you can make these rules active enabled, or you can disable them if you don't need them. But if you want to create a new rule, you click on create here, and there are 4 types of rules. So the match rule is a simple Boolean expression that says, if somebody does something from a specific domain, I want to fire off this rule. All right. So maybe you've got a contractor or something trying to go someplace a contractor shouldn't go. You can create a simple rule for that. The threshold rule is where you're going to have a certain number of records match a specific time. So the old, and I, as an IT manager, I love this, and a network administrator, somebody can't log in successfully after 5 tries. I want to see a threshold rule. So somebody failed to log in after 5 attempts within a period of time. So a threshold rule does have a period of time here, a period of time. The chain rule is like a threshold rule, except it has multiple conditions. So somebody tried to log in and failed 5 times, and then they were able to successfully log in. And they did that within an hour window. So my 2 conditions, they failed and then they succeeded. And that could be in either any order, or it could be in a specific order, your call. And then finally, I have an aggregation type rule. And my aggregation type rule says, look, if I'm, again, the example there is, I've got 100 DNS queries in a 30-minute range, maybe I'm getting some sort of a DNS attack or something along those lines, right? Something that shouldn't happen. So typically we're looking at aggregating, counting something, and we can create these rules. Now, for the purposes of this class, we're going to create a simple match rule. So I'm going to create match rule. And again, our first order of business is we're going to name it. I'm going to call mine, again, I would like your initials, and I would like you to specify and call it match rule. I don't care if it's uppercase or lowercase, because I want to be able to clean these out of our, when we're done with class. So please specify your initials and then call it match rule. Now down here, I'm going to specify what the logic is where it matches this expression. So what logic is it that says, that's going to cause this to be fired? And then when it fires, what am I going to specify in the signal? So that is basically what happens. Now there's also something important down here, 2 things. Number 1, save this rule as a prototype. If it's a brand new rule, I don't want it to generate insights until I fully tested it. So if you check this to save this rule as a prototype, it will not generate insights. It will not be used to score and generate insights at all. Now, once you've tested it and you're happy with it, you can uncheck mark this. But we recommend as a best practice, and I can't stress this enough, we recommend that you do check it every time you create a rule, because you're going to want to test that rule out. You don't want to generate a bunch of false insights and have your SOC team chasing their tails around because you didn't really test out this rule. So please, we're going to check that so we get down there. The other thing I want to point down here is this golden triangle. This golden triangle has a 4 on it right now. And it's basically telling me, look, I'm not going to let you submit until you clear this golden triangle. And there are 4 things that you need to fix. And so it's basically telling me the 4 things that I am missing here. So as we go through this, we should clear out this golden triangle, and this golden triangle will go away. So here we're going to create a rule that we want to basically have, okay? So I'm going to sit there and go in here, and I'm going to say my rule is device. And as I start typing in device, I can see here device OS name. So the device OS name is equal to, and again, I'll put in a single quote. All our little strings here are single quotes. It's Windows. So I want this rule to fire anytime I come across a Windows type device. Okay. And if you copy this code, by the way, that's in here, and you could copy it and you could paste it. Sometimes it has a problem with the quotes that are obviously in a PDF. So it may or may not recognize those. So if you did copy it, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it, see what happens. Yeah, you notice the word Windows is not in red. And if you replace these double quotes, that should then fix this, and it now is behaving properly. So many of you are familiar with text editors and the joy that PDF files and other files can do to quotes and single quotes and double quotes and all that sort of thing. You're probably used to it. So this is what happens. So if I got a device OS coming from a Windows machine, I want this rule to fire. Okay. Now I can also add a rule tuning expression here, and I believe the directions ask us to put in our rule tuning expression. I'm not going to worry about that because my rule tuning expression was based on a firewall, checkpoint firewall issue, not based on Windows. But you could add a tuning expression here if you wanted to. So that's going to be what causes our rule to fire. Then over here, I am going to specify what entity do I want to use. And I'm going to go back here to my directions here. And I just want to make sure here, we've got this information in there. Tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and grab in here. I'll grab my device host name. So I want to see my device host name. And then I can sit there and put in a name, a summary, and a description. So I can sit here and say, something like, we got a problem, or Windows machine detected. Whatever, and then I can put a summary in here. I can put whatever text I want. Houston, we have a Windows machine. And I don't know if Apple has such a rule stood up or not, but that's another story. And then, of course, we can put a description. And notice as I'm doing this, my little golden triangle, hey, I'm down to one little problem here. A description is required. Cool. So I can put in here a description, right? And then you get to apply a severity score. Now, the severity scores range from 0 to 10. Obviously, if it's got a 0, it would never add up to 12. 0 plus 0 plus whatever. 0 is still 0. So you probably want to assign a severity score. And I'll be honest with you, as far as deciding whether a severity score is significant or not, what you want to do, you have to think in terms of how important is this threat. A device that's a Windows machine, in my world, that's not necessarily a big threat. I mean, so if it was a Windows machine that was doing something malicious, then maybe I'd give it a higher score. But you can score it anywhere from 0 to 10 if you want to. And in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and score it 0. Now, one little thing, like I said, when you're trying this out and you give it a score, and then you start to test this and you decide you want to bump up the score, don't bump it up by much. Just take it up or down by 1. Do your changes small, because you'd be surprised how quickly that can add up. And then, of course, here it says with tags. What are these tags? Well, these are the MITRE ATT&CK framework tags. So under tactic, what sort of tactic am I dealing with? I'm dealing with discovery. Is there some other tactics that I'm dealing with? Some other techniques that I'm dealing with? Account discovery, machine discovery, whatever. And so I can find basically what I'm looking for here. Man in the middle attack, let's look and see if we had machine or maybe computer. So you pick the tags and stuff that you like based on the sort of stuff that's happening here. Okay. Don't see one that I really like, so I'm going to go without it. So you can add your MITRE ATT&CK frames, which is part of the rule. And so when you see this rule fire, you'll be able to see the various MITRE ATT&CK frameworks here. Again, always, 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 always save this rule as a prototype. Everybody who is part of our Cloud SIEM environment team who's been using this product for years, even though they've been using this product since its inception, they always save things as a prototype because you don't want to accidentally fire off a bunch of insights. And then it's a simple matter of clicking submit, and you now have a new rule in here. And if I go back and I look at my rules, I can eventually search for that rule. Now, up here in your filter, like I said, you can filter it by name. I can say name contains, and I'll put my initials in here. And hopefully it helps if I spell my initials correctly. I am here on a football scholarship for sure. The other thing is it does take a minute or two for the rule to kind of stick in here, but it found it. There's my rule. Okay. So that's how we create a match rule. Any questions on that? All right. And again, you can disable the rule if you want to without having to delete it. You can also export this out as JSON, and you can also import rules as JSON if you want. So if you want to see the structure of JSON, and of course, it's also in our product documentation. All right, brings us to our last thing that we're going to do today. We're going to create a custom insight. So again, what is a custom insight and why do I want to create one? Well, maybe I want a rule to fire. Maybe that rule has a severity score of 0 or 2 or whatever. It's not going to fire by itself. So what I want to do is I want to create a custom insight. So whatever this rule is, and it happens, it just fires. So you and I can create a custom insight here. And again, we click that create button in here and you specify the rule or rules that you want. So if I go to a search for my JWM match rule there, I can say, look, when this rule occurs, I want you to fire off an insight. Okay. And by the way, let's go up here and let's give this thing a name. JWM, again, your initials, and let's call it a custom insight. Because when I go in and clean these things out, I want to know that I'm searching for custom insight. So if you would, again, call yours with your initials and call it custom insight, again, I'd appreciate it. Now, I could add another rule here. So I could have a bunch of rules. And then I could also say these rules are going to occur in exact order or in any order. And then I get to create an insight with a name. By default, as I name this insight, it's going to use that name. Works for me. I'm happy with it. Again, I've got my golden triangle down here to remind me I need to do something. And it wants a description. We got us a Windows machine. Whatever you want to put in the description. And you can also provide a severity score for that insight, whether it's a low, medium, or high severity score. Okay. And of course, you can add your MITRE ATT&CK framework. So again, I can go to tactic here and I can go in here to discovery and add the various MITRE TAC tags that I want for this insight. And that's all there is to adding that custom insight. And there's the custom insight. And if I look, I can see my custom insights. And you guys have done a great job of adding those insights. Just like with our rules and everything else, you can make them disabled. If you want to turn them off temporarily, you can certainly do that. Yeah. So again, our goal here was to show you how to create a custom rule, a custom insight, and that sort of thing. From here, there is a couple of things that you can consider doing as far as furthering your education and furthering your knowledge. First of all, we've got a whole bunch of micro lessons playlist on YouTube. So if you go out to YouTube and you search for Sumo Logic, you'll find that we've got threat investigation with Cloud SIEM, creating rules in Cloud SIEM, all kinds of great little micro lessons for you. We also have 2 brand new certification classes. We've got our Cloud SIEM fundamentals class, which is again a 3-hour class with 2 hours of lecture and lab and 1 hour of certification time, taking the test. And then we've got a new Cloud SIEM administration class, which again is another 3-hour class, 2 hours of lecture and lab, 1 hour of certification test that you can take as well. So you've got those classes and stuff that you can take. And of course, you can get certified. So those classes, like I said, you can take, you don't need to take any classes, by the way, to take the test. You can go out there and take the test if you want. If you feel you've got the corporate knowledge, you can certainly do that. So the other thing I want to mention to you is that, of course, Illuminate's wrapping up, but again, they're going to replace some of the keynotes and stuff. So if you want to listen to that, that's wonderful. But as far as future trainings, here in October, we are doing regional cert jams. So for Europe, we're doing cert jams on October 19th and 20th at 9 a.m. their time. And then also on the 19th, we're also starting to do some cert jams for the Western and Central US. And then October 26th and 27th, we're doing some Eastern cert jams. Now these cert jams, typically within 2 days, we wind up teaching 2 classes each day, or maybe 2 classes or 3 classes, total of 3 classes in a workshop, or maybe 4 classes. 2 classes per day, though, no more than 4 classes. So we'll try to cover as much material here as we can. And then also, you can also take, we've got self-paced courses that you can also take advantage of. And those self-paced courses are actually in our learning environment. I'll take you to show you where that is in just a minute. But we've got self-paced courses that you can take advantage of. And then of those in Asia Pacific, we got some cert jams scheduled there, October 27th and 28th, that you can also take. So this is where you can go and learn about these other classes and complete that. So before I take you there, are there any questions about anything we've talked about the labs? Anything that we need to further discuss here before I take you into the Sumo Logic training environment in the self-paced area? I'm going to take that as a no. So when we want you, okay, will the labs be available after the workshop for practice? Yes, Amar, they will. So the point is, you've got these login credentials. You can use these credentials until we change the password in the first Monday of October. And then, like I said, if you want the new password, reach out to me and I'll gladly tell you that. So you can access this lab as long as you want. I mean, once we change the password and you get the new password, you got another month that you can play. This is an open system that you can take advantage of, okay? Now, one thing I'm going to do, and we recommend whenever you want to take a certification or a training course or something like that, we recommend that you don't use these training accounts. So you do for the labs of the courses. But if you want to take a self-paced course, we recommend that you sign out of those accounts and you log into your company's Sumo Logic environment with your name so that you get credit for completing that course. So I'm going to log in here with my name, my credentials. And then to get to the self-paced courses, if I want to go there, I can click on home. I can click on certification. I can click on Get Certified. And this will take you to our learning management system, our LMS. Now, here in our LMS, we keep track of what the password is. So this is another way to get that password. And what you can do is you can go in here and you can find the area that you want to focus on. In our case, let's say Cloud SIEM. So I can click on Cloud SIEM here, and there's a 40-minute course about the Cloud SIEM pipeline, how we ingest that data and manipulate that data. Here is the Cloud SIEM user interface overview class. Takes approximately 65 minutes. The Cloud SIEM user interface configuration class, about 100 minutes. And again, Anna has been working very diligently creating these self-paced courses for you. And then, of course, there's threat hunting with Windows. So these self-paced courses are available for you and I and whoever else if you want to learn at your own pace and do that sort of thing. Or as we said, you can take the instructor-led courses. By the way, when you want to take the exams, those exams are right here. You can go in and get them. All you typically do if you want to take one of these courses is click in it, click the registration button, and boom, you're registered. And then you can start going through the content of this. The other thing I want to mention to you is it will also keep track of the test and the certifications and the courses that you pass. And, you know, if you complete a course, you can view the certificate of that course, right? You can see it, put on your I love me wall, that sort of thing. Great. But you can also add it to your LinkedIn profile, keeping your credentials on LinkedIn fresh. So hopefully that gives you an idea of all of this cool stuff and all these resources that you have available. What questions have you? All right, then. Let me turn on my camera real quick so I can say a proper goodbye. And again, on behalf of myself, Anna, Claire, and everybody at Sumo Logic, we want to thank you all for attending. I'm going to give you some time back because I'm sure you could probably use it, but I want to thank you all for attending. And if there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. Claire, anything you want to add?
Nothing for me, just thanks for everyone's participation. John, excellent information, and we look forward to working together moving forward.
Oh, yeah. Lots of stuff. And Anna, anything you want to add, ma'am?
No, just want to let people know about those certification classes that you mentioned. They'll be on the self-paced version pretty soon.
Yeah. So let's see, we got a couple things in the chat. Okay, so thank you. So that's fine. Great. Again, folks, anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. So thank you all for your time, your effort, and we look forward to seeing you in class again real soon. Hopefully we can do it face-to-face sometime. That would be really nice for me. So, but we'll get there eventually. So please be safe. Have yourselves a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.